As Chicago's former mayor, who was hired to investigate Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard's administration, revealed the shocking spending of taxpayer dollars.
Drama in Dalton. Credit card transactions amounting to thousands of dollars without explanation and millions more owed to vendors.
A bombshell report highlights just how much financial trouble the village of Dalton is in.
They say the village is facing financial disaster, and they blame the mayor for mismanagement. She says this is all just
residents of Dalton and Thornton Township, long aware of their community's financial struggles, have been left stunned by recent revelations from former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. A review of the area's finances uncovered a fiscal disaster far worse than anticipated, an alarming $36.05 million deficit in the village's general fund. This financial collapse has become a symbol of failed leadership under Mayor Tiffany Henyard, who also serves as supervisor of Thornton Township. Despite growing calls from frustrated citizens for her resignation, Henyard has shown no remorse or willingness to address the mounting accusations of corruption, favoritism, and gross financial mismanagement that have plagued her administration. Instead, her tenure has become synonymous with scandal, marked by allegations of embezzlement, reckless spending, and self-serving decisions that have overshadowed any positive contributions she may have made. The situation reached a tipping point with the announcement of an FBI investigation into Henyard's conduct. This probe has sent shockwaves through a community accustomed to broken promises and political theater. Evidence continues to mount, painting a grim picture of governance where personal agendas have consistently taken precedence over public service. Reports of lavish taxpayer-funded vacations, extravagant purchases, and wasteful projects have left residents outraged, with many accusing Henyard of attempting to drain Dalton and Thornton Township's resources before her time in office ends. Adding insult to injury, Lightfoot's review revealed years of neglect and misappropriation, exposing a deeper crisis of leadership and responsibility. Henyard's misuse of public funds has not only created a financial nightmare, but also eroded the trust of her constituents. Her image as a detached and self-indulgent leader was further solidified by revelations of an $85,000 in personal audit and a pattern of absenteeism from critical township meetings, particularly those aimed at resolving the insurance crisis. The fallout extends beyond finances. Thornton Township has seen essential services like senior transportation, food assistance, and insurance programs jeopardized by administrative dysfunction. Vulnerable populations now bear the brunt of decisions made for personal gain, highlighting the devastating human cost of Henyard's leadership failures. Prominent critics, including trustees like Chris Gonzalez, have emphasized the dangerous consequences of Henyard's neglect, pointing out that issues like insurance and essential services go beyond politics, they affect lives. Public outrage has swelled as residents face the reality of a leader who appears more focused on stalling investigations and maintaining her authority than on addressing the urgent needs of the community. The FBI investigation has offered a glimmer of hope for some residents who see it as a pathway to justice and accountability. For many, this federal intervention represents a necessary step after years of stalled local efforts to check Henyard's power. Critics accuse her of deliberately stalling while public resources are siphoned off, leaving Dalton and Thornton Township in shambles. The worsening state of affairs has galvanized opposition and sparked widespread calls for a complete overhaul of leadership. Residents are now rallying around the hope of rebuilding from the ashes of mismanagement, determined to restore financial stability, integrity, and trust to their community. The road to recovery will be long, but for the first time in years, there's a sense of determination among Dalton and Thornton Township residents to reclaim their future from the wreckage of Henyard's controversial reign.
From multiple sources that federal agents are in fact interviewing witnesses as part of a possible investigation that may or may not result in
controversy surrounding Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard has escalated with troubling new allegations from local business owners who claimed their establishments were unfairly targeted and shut down for refusing to support political events backed by the mayor. These accusations paint a disturbing picture of an administration allegedly wielding its authority to punish dissent, further fueling the community's frustration and distrust. Business owners describe a climate of fear and retaliation, alleging that those who declined to align with Henyard's political agenda faced abrupt and unjust actions, such as arbitrary fines, increased regulatory scrutiny, or even forced closures. These practices have not only strained the relationship between the administration and the business community, but also stifled economic growth, leaving many to question whether Henyard's leadership prioritizes personal political gain over the town's prosperity. The ripple effects of these alleged abuses extend far beyond the business sector. Residents have voiced outrage at what they see as a blatant disregard for ethical governance, fairness, and the well-being of the community. Critics argue that such behavior reflects a broader pattern of power misuse and self-serving leadership, reinforcing calls for transparency, accountability, and Henyard's removal from office. These allegations come amid a growing storm of scandals involving Henyard's administration, including claims of financial mismanagement, lavish personal spending, and reckless decision-making. For many residents, the business retaliation claims are yet another example of an administration plagued by corruption and neglect. While Henyard has publicly denied any wrongdoing and dismissed the accusations as baseless political attacks, her failure to address the concerns of business owners and residents meaningfully has only deepened the crisis. The lack of accountability has further alienated a significant portion of the public, who view these incidents as evidence that her leadership is no longer sustainable. The alleged misuse of power has added another layer to the mounting backlash against Henyard's administration, leaving many to wonder whether her political career can survive the growing scandal, or if these events signal its inevitable collapse.
Both of the Dalton bars that were raided and shut down last night, we visited the day before as part of our ongoing investigation into allegations of political corruption in Dalton.
They just rushed in here, put police at the front of the door like they was doing a raid on the drug house.
A team of Dalton police officers raided and shut down Pablo's Bar and Cafe and Rinky's Bar and Cafe, both located on Sibley, about a block apart.
Everything going peacefully. Nothing going on. It's like 10 police cars came in and they start pushing customers from here. And he said, if you don't leave, we're going to...
Controversy surrounding Dalton's mayor, Tiffany Henyard, escalated as local employees and business owners accused her of running a continuous harassment campaign, which has cost both jobs and financial losses. These business owners alleged that their licenses were stripped by the village, yet they continued operating under state jurisdiction. As tensions rose, former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was appointed to investigate Henyard's alleged illicit activities. This move became a pivotal moment in the unfolding saga, and Henyard's response was immediate and combative. Her administration appeared determined to resist Lightfoot's efforts from the start. Henyard's first strategy was to shift the blame for Dalton and Thornton Townships' escalating problems onto the village trustees. This only served to deepen the rifts within local government and further isolate Henyard from an already distrustful public. Despite mounting evidence pointing to mismanagement and corruption, Henyard continued to deny any wrongdoing, labeling Lightfoot's investigation as politically charged and aimed at damaging her reputation. Yet, Henyard's tactics of deflection began to lose their effectiveness as Lightfoot's investigation uncovered a troubling series of financial misdeeds and corruption directly linked to Henyard's administration. What the investigation revealed was a landscape rife with questionable financial practices, signaling deeper issues within the leadership, unexplained deficits, and a string of financial irregularities pointed directly to Henyard. Yet she continued to dismiss the findings, labeling the inquiry as a personal attack on her leadership. As Lightfoot's investigation advanced, it became clear that the mayor had misused taxpayer funds on extravagant expenses, defending them as necessary community improvements that offered little to no tangible benefit to residents. Lavish travel, costly personal perks, and questionable contracts became symbols of an administration accused of placing self-interest above the needs of the community. Henyard's resistance to Lightfoot's probe only intensified public outrage. The deeper the investigation went, the more troubling the revelations became. Lightfoot's findings revealed a consistent pattern of financial waste and a lack of transparency in the decision-making process. Despite the growing evidence, Henyard and her supporters continued to claim she was the victim of a smear campaign masterminded by political opponents. They argued that the systemic issues Henyard inherited when she took office were the root cause of the village's financial woes. Meanwhile, an increasing number of residents and officials demanded accountability, viewing Henyard's attempts to deflect blame as desperate and unconvincing. As the investigation progressed, the divide between Henyard's defenders and critics deepened. Supporters insisted that the mayor was being unfairly targeted, claiming the issues she faced were out of her control. Critics, however, saw her actions as a clear attempt to evade responsibility for her administration's failures. This widening divide set the stage for more political conflict, with calls for Henyard's resignation growing louder, accompanied by protests and demands for immediate corrective measures to restore integrity to local governance. With each new revelation, the pressure mounted. Lightfoot's investigation seemed to confirm the worst fears of Henyard's detractors, further eroding public trust in her leadership. Despite the mounting pressure, Henyard remained defiant, refusing to step down and instead doubling down on her claims of innocence. Her resistance only solidified the perception that she was unwilling to take responsibility for her administration's actions. The longer she clung to power, the more entrenched the public's belief became that Henyard was unwilling to make the necessary reforms to address the growing crisis. Amidst the chaos, Lightfoot's investigation continued to unearth deeper issues within Henyard's administration, including allegations of favoritism and unethical conduct. These findings highlighted the broader challenges facing Dalton and Thornton Township, stressing the urgent need for structural reforms and capable leadership. The impact of Lightfoot's investigation reverberated beyond Henyard's office, becoming a rallying cry for those determined to reclaim their community from political dysfunction. For Lightfoot, the investigation highlighted the critical importance of transparency and accountability in governance, even as she faced criticism from Henyard's loyalists and political factions working to protect their own interests. As Henyard's administration faltered under the weight of mounting public scrutiny and the damning findings of Lightfoot's investigation, it became clear that Tiffany Henyard's time in office was no longer merely a local issue. It had evolved into a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power, the consequences of failed leadership, and the resilience of a community determined to demand better. Whether or not Henyard ultimately faced legal or political repercussions for her actions, her legacy had already been sealed by the scandals that overshadowed her tenure. The lessons of her administration, about the importance of accountability, transparency, and the responsibilities of public office, would continue to resonate long after her political career had ended. As Dalton and Thornton Township worked to rebuild, the deep scars left by Henyard's leadership will serve as a stark reminder of the dangers of neglecting public trust and the critical need for ethical governance in shaping the future.
Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard at the helm of the village's first packed meeting since Dalton trustees passed a resolution last month requiring her to turn over the village's financial records and asking the FBI to investigate her alleged misuse of village funds. The mayor admits to a $2 million deficit, but trustees...
Tiffany Henyard's attempt to involve the FBI in investigating her own actions was both audacious and ultimately embarrassing, exposing the fragile dynamics within her administration. Likely trying to assert her innocence or shift attention away from local investigations, Henyard proposed federal intervention. However, the Board of Trustees swiftly countered her move with a decisive majority vote to override her veto. This action laid bare the growing rift between Henyard and local government officials, underscoring the board's lack of confidence in her leadership. For many residents, Henyard's call for the FBI's involvement seemed less about pursuing truth and accountability and more about trying to control the narrative. Critics saw it as a desperate attempt to deflect attention from the mounting allegations of corruption, financial mismanagement, and ethical violations that had come to define her time in office. The board's decision to override her veto not only reaffirmed their commitment to local oversight, but also highlighted Henyard's increasing isolation from the corridors of power. The optics of the situation were particularly damaging. Her proposal to involve federal authorities was interpreted by some as an implicit acknowledgement of the severity of the issues she faced. Meanwhile, others saw it as an attempt to shift the focus to a higher authority, away from local accountability. The swift and decisive vote to nullify her veto sent a clear message of defiance, rejecting what many viewed as a futile and misguided maneuver. This episode only added to the controversy surrounding an administration already mired in scandal. Henyard's detractors seized on the moment, framing it as further proof of her inability to govern effectively or navigate the political landscape of Dalton and Thornton Township. Observers noted how the incident exposed her growing tendency to prioritize self-preservation over real leadership, especially as her administration became embroiled in allegations of lavish spending, misuse of taxpayer funds, and neglect of the community's pressing needs. The community's response was equally telling, with residents expressing frustration over the spectacle that had replaced meaningful governance. Many saw Henyard's attempt to involve the FBI as an unnecessary distraction from the urgent local issues that demanded immediate attention. With local services under strain, rampant financial mismanagement, and trust in government institutions at an all-time low, residents felt the priority should have been addressing these issues head-on, not engaging in what they saw as a performative gesture. For the Board of Trustees, their decision to override Henyard's veto wasn't just a rejection of a poorly conceived proposal. It was a statement of their commitment to maintaining local control and accountability during a time of escalating crisis. The trustees were determined to take the reins and prevent further disruption caused by Henyard's erratic decision-making. Their vote symbolized a collective effort to stabilize a fractured administration and restore some semblance of governance in the face of growing instability.
The veto message is related to the secret squirrel meetings, yes, that the Board of Trustees have.
The trustees vowed to override her veto. One of them, Kiana Belcher, sitting at the meeting with her portrait because she says it was removed from the wall of Village Hall.
And this is just a process to drag it along, but everybody sees what's going on.
The village, under Henyard's leadership, is cracking down on access, pushing media at tonight's meeting to the very back of the room, almost out of sight of public comment from residents. But their voices were loud and clear.
Everybody cares about the person that's making a mess.
Henyard placing the blame elsewhere.
But only judge when you got both sides of the story, not one side narrative.
Under Tiffany Henyard's leadership, the village has increasingly cracked down on access, pushing the media to the far back of the room during meetings, nearly out of sight from public comment. Despite these efforts, residents' voices remained loud and clear. "You lie to us as residents, you don't stand for me, and I want you to step down as mayor today and save our village from this deficit you've caused," one resident exclaimed. Another added, "The mayor can blame everyone else for what's happening, but she needs to look at herself. Nobody told her to get on TV and act like that. Everyone cares except the person making a mess and shifting the blame." But as one person wisely put it, you can only judge when you hear both sides of the story, not just one negative narrative. Henyard has consistently portrayed herself as innocent, dismissing criticism as prejudice against black women. However, she has refused to address questions about her infamous trip to Las Vegas, where she allegedly spent thousands of taxpayer dollars on lodging, meals, and airline tickets, expenses that many believe further exemplify the mismanagement under her leadership.
Together at this time and this moment. This is when we got this people, right? Y'all all say my resolution can agree. So guess what? I am the leader. Don't forget I am the leader. They want to hear from the mayor. If y'all ain't learned that yet. Of course I'm going to give away $1 million to help you pay your mortgage and your rent. Of course I am. The mayor, not the trustee that don't do nothing, that only run their mouth. We getting scrutinized in the meeting. For what? Loving on the people, showing them that they matter to us.
When it was revealed that Tiffany Henyard had embezzled millions of dollars from the general fund without proper accounting for other alleged embezzlements, she seemed to disappear. She avoided attempts by news outlets to reach her for comment. The general fund, which is meant for day-to-day operations, was in the red with a staggering $3.65 million deficit. Police department expenditures had risen by 21%, with 2 officers earning more in overtime pay than their regular salaries. By June 18, 589 checks totaling over $6 million were approved but never sent to vendors. 6 different credit cards were used for purchases, but receipts were rarely provided. One of the more notable investigations centered around $440,000 and in Amazon charges. You may hear many things, but I can assure you, the financial information is clear, one official stated. I knew we were broke, and the way she broke it down, just to let the other residents hear what was really going on, because Tiffany Henyard always talks about fake news. In addition, it was discovered that the village had excessively used credit cards, despite repeated requests for interviews. Henyard did not respond to any questions and was reportedly absent from the building. Village staff were unable to specify when she would return. At a packed community meeting the following day, the trustees emphasized the facts, making it clear that Henyard's actions were far from those of a leader serving the people. They underscored how she had used public funds to support her lavish lifestyle, revealing a troubling pattern of financial mismanagement and a blatant disregard for her community's well-being.
The village's credit card spending is out of control. Mayor Tiffany Henyard didn't respond to any of my requests today, and I'm told she's not in the building. No response to repeated interview requests. I tried to track down Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard in person today. Village employees told me she wasn't in the office and didn't say when she would be. A day after this. A packed community meeting Thursday night.
Despite repeated attempts to secure an interview, Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard refused to respond. When I tried to meet with her in person, village employees informed me that she was not in the office and could not specify when she would return. The following day, tensions boiled over at a packed community meeting on Thursday night, as residents voiced their frustrations. Henyard's leadership was increasingly questioned, with many community members demanding accountability for the financial mismanagement plaguing the village. Amid the growing controversy, Henyard seemed to find new allies in the legal industry. After firing her previous top assistant, Keith Freeman, she appeared to take steps to shield herself from inquiries. At a recent board meeting, Henyard's criminal defense attorneys, Bo Brindley and Ed McDavid, were present, sitting alongside the village's attorneys as Henyard's defense team closely monitored the proceedings. Brindley, a federal criminal defense lawyer known for his aggressive legal strategies, signaled that Henyard was preparing for a long legal battle. Her defense team listened intently during the board's private executive session, showcasing her efforts to protect herself amidst the ongoing FBI corruption investigation. As expected, Henyard maintained her innocence, claiming she was being unjustly targeted. She accused the trustees of wasting public funds on investigating her, portraying herself as the only one truly working for the community. However, her administration's actions continued to complicate matters. Notably, Henyard had appointed L.S. Lacey, a figure later fired by the Dalton Village Council for insubordination, to a powerful new role. Lacey's appointment was seen by many as unlawful, with board members questioning Henyard's decision to elevate someone with such a controversial history. Lacey, who had been previously involved in legal troubles, was arraigned on federal bankruptcy fraud charges. He was accused of lying under oath in an attempt to conceal assets and income from creditors. Lacey's legal team, however, vehemently denied the charges. The media attention surrounding his case only added to the growing narrative that continued to overshadow Henyard's administration. While Henyard had once enjoyed nearly unanimous support from the Thornton Township Board, her silence on Lacey's appointment and the mounting scandals surrounding her led to fractures in her support base. A whistleblower from the Thornton Board of Trustees came forward, detailing how Henyard had manipulated employees, vendors, and residents to expand her influence. The whistleblower claimed Henyard had presented a false image of success, funded by the hard-working taxpayers of Thornton Township and Dalton. As the situation escalated, Henyard continued to deny any wrongdoing, dismissing her opponents as merely seeking attention. Amid the rising tension in Dalton, Henyard's latest appointment sparked further controversy. She appointed Michael Smith, a political figure with a long history in South suburban politics, to a top assistant role with a $100,000 in annual salary. Smith, 34, was said to be well-versed in law and politics, but his past raised significant concerns. He had been charged with at least 8 different crimes over the years, ranging from official misconduct to domestic violence. In 2012, Smith's involvement in a case where a young trustee in Dixon resigned after pleading guilty to stealing patrol duties and impersonating a police officer further raised questions about his integrity. Despite these troubling issues, Henyard appointed Smith without external approval, deepening concerns about her decision-making. Many saw this as another instance of Henyard surrounding herself with controversial figures, further alienating residents and trustees alike. As Henyard's administration continued to face mounting criticism, the situation in Dalton grew increasingly tense. The financial mismanagement, questionable appointments, and legal troubles added to the already fragile state of leadership. The ongoing FBI investigation into Henyard's conduct only heightened the pressure, leaving many in the community wondering if her time as mayor was drawing to a close. While Henyard refused to step down, her refusal to engage with the community and address the growing concerns only fueled distrust and anger among residents in a town already grappling with financial woes. Her controversial decisions and actions seemed to only worsen the problems rather than offer solutions. As the investigation continued and the community's calls for accountability grew louder, Henyard's grip on power became more uncertain. The saga of Tiffany Henyard's leadership in Dalton and Thornton Township was far from over, but with each passing day, her position appeared to be more precarious.